Welcome to Life Stories Network. Today's story will touch your heart and maybe make you rethink what family really means. It's about a mother, her daughter, and a Christmas no one will ever forget. My name is Karen, and I thought I had a close, loving family. We weren't perfect, but every year Christmas was sacred. My parents, my brothers, their kids, and my daughter Emily, we always gathered at my mom's big old house. We'd cook together, laugh, argue a little, then eat too much. It was chaotic but warm. Until last year, it all started a few weeks before Christmas. My mom called me and asked if Emily was still bringing her friend. The tone in her voice made my stomach twist. She was talking about Emily's best friend, Chloe, a girl who'd been like family for years. But lately, my mom had become distant toward her. Ever since Emily told us Chloe had been kicked out by her own parents and was staying with us for a while. When I said yes, Mom sighed heavily and said, "Karen, I think this year we need to keep Christmas family only." I froze. "Mom, Chloe has nowhere else to go." But she cut me off. "That's not our problem. It's not appropriate." I didn't argue then. I just said I'd think about it. When I told Emily, she didn't say anything at first. She just stared at the floor. After a long silence, she said quietly, "So Grandma doesn't want me there either then." I told her that wasn't true, but she looked at me like I'd betrayed her. If Chloe's not welcome, I'm not welcome. Then she went to her room and locked the door. For days, I tried to talk to her. She barely spoke to me. I felt torn between my daughter and my family, but deep down, I knew where I should stand. I just didn't have the courage to face my mother. Every time I thought about calling, I imagined her voice, cold, certain, immovable. A week before Christmas, my mom called again. She said, "So are you two coming?" I hesitated. "Emily's still upset." "I'm not sure yet." Her reply was sharp. "Well, make up your mind. I don't want drama at dinner." That night, I found Emily wrapping gifts in her room. She was alone, humming softly. There was a small box wrapped neatly in silver paper. I asked who it was for. She said, "For Grandma." I know she doesn't want me there, but I still wanted to give her something. My heart cracked right there. Christmas Eve came fast. The house smelled like cinnamon and pine. I kept glancing at the clock, trying to decide. At 4 p.m., Mom texted, "Dinner starts at 6. Don't be late." I looked at Emily sitting on the couch with her hoodie pulled up. She said quietly, "You should go, Mom. Don't ruin it for everyone else." I told her, "We can stay home. Make our own dinner." She shook her head. "They'll talk about you. They'll blame me." I didn't know what to do. I hated myself for even hesitating. At 5:30, I made the worst choice I've ever made. I left. I told Emily I'd just stop by for an hour and come back. She nodded but didn't look at me. I said, "I'll bring you some food, okay?" She said, "Sure, Mom." Those were her last words to me that night. When I got to my parents' house, everything looked perfect. Candles, laughter, music. But I couldn't shake the guilt. My brothers were telling jokes, my mom was smiling proudly, and all I could think about was my daughter alone in that quiet house. I tried to eat, but everything tasted like regret. Halfway through dinner, my mom said, "See, isn't this peaceful? No drama this year." My fork froze midair. I stared at her. "You mean no Emily this year," I said. She gave me that look, the one that says drop it. But I didn't. "You hurt her, Mom. You made her feel unwanted." My dad cleared his throat, trying to change the subject, but I kept going. "Do you even realize she wrapped you a gift?" The room went silent. My mom frowned. "Karen, please. Let's not do this." I stood up. "No. You told a 16-year-old girl she doesn't belong because of who she cares about." My voice shook. My mom said coldly, "I didn't tell her that. You're twisting things." But I could see the guilt flicker in her eyes. I left. I didn't even grab my coat. I ran to my car and drove home through falling snow. Every red light felt like punishment. I kept thinking, what if she's crying? What if she thinks I chose them over her? My heart was pounding when I pulled into the driveway. The house was dark. The Christmas tree lights blinked softly in the window. Inside, everything was quiet. Too quiet. I called her name, no answer. Her shoes were by the door, her phone on the couch. My chest tightened. I ran upstairs. Her room was empty. The bed untouched. Panic set in. Then I saw a note taped to her door. It said, "Don't worry, Mom. I just wanted to see what Christmas felt like when no one wanted you around." My knees buckled. I called her friends, drove through the neighborhood, checked the park, The diner? Nothing. It felt like every minute lasted an hour. I called the police around midnight. They said to wait, that maybe she'd gone to a friend's. I told them she didn't have many left. Around 2 a.m., I got a text. It was from Emily, just one photo. It showed her sitting by a small tree in an empty house. No decorations, just a half-eaten sandwich beside her. The caption said, "Merry Christmas, Mom." I burst into tears. I asked her where she was. She didn't reply. I texted again and again until finally she wrote, "It's okay. I just needed to be alone." I begged her to tell me where she was. Nothing. I sat on the couch and cried until I fell asleep. When I woke up, it was 6 a.m., Christmas morning. Snow covered everything outside. I heard the door open quietly. Emily stepped in, her hair messy, eyes red from crying. She was holding the silver box. She said softly, "I went to Chloe's old house. It's empty now. I just wanted to sit there one last time." I stood there frozen, then hugged her so tight she could barely breathe. She whispered, "I didn't want you to feel bad. I just wanted to feel wanted." That's when I broke. I told her, "You are wanted every second of every day. I was the one who failed you." When Emily said those words, I felt them hit me like ice water. You just forgot who mattered most. I wanted to deny it, to tell her she was wrong, but she wasn't. I had spent so much time trying to keep peace with everyone else that I had broken peace with my own child. We sat on the couch together, the Christmas tree lights flickering across her face. I told her everything, how my mother pressured me, how I felt trapped, how I thought showing up for an hour would somehow make it right. She listened quietly, not angry anymore, just tired. I could see she'd aged emotionally overnight. After a while, she said, "Grandma always said Christmas is about family. Guess I'm not part of that anymore." Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled. I told her, "You are my family. You're the only part that feels real." She looked at me and said, "Then why did you go without me?" I had no answer that made sense. We sat there for hours, barely talking. The snow outside never stopped. At one point, I noticed her gift to my mother still sitting on the coffee table, untouched. The silver wrapping caught the light, shining in the dim room. Emily saw me looking at it and whispered, "Do you think she'd even open it?" I said, "Maybe not. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't have given it." Later that morning, I tried to call my mom. She didn't answer. I left a message, my voice shaking. "Mom, you hurt Emily. I don't know if you realize it, but you did. I can't keep pretending everything's fine." Then I hung up and turned my phone off. For once, I didn't care about anyone else's opinion. Emily and I made pancakes for breakfast. We didn't have fancy food, but it felt good just being together. She smiled a little when I burned one side. "Grandma would say you ruined it," she said. I laughed softly. She'd be right. After breakfast, Emily went to her room and came back with a small photo album. "I found this when you were out," she said. Inside were pictures of us from every Christmas since she was born. Her first steps. Her first bike. Her first time helping me decorate the tree. Then one picture made her stop flipping. It was from the year her dad left. She touched the photo gently. "That was the year we made gingerbread men for dinner because you said we didn't need anyone else." I remembered that night. I had cried while she laughed, her face smeared with frosting. She said, "I miss that version of us." I swallowed hard and said, "Me too." The doorbell rang suddenly. We both jumped. When I opened it, my mother was standing there. She looked smaller somehow, her usual confidence gone. She was holding the silver box. "Can I come in?" she asked quietly. Emily didn't move. I stepped aside without saying a word. Mom walked in, looked around the room, and finally said, "You were right. Karen." She turned toward Emily. "And you were right, too." Emily crossed her arms, silent. Mom held out the silver box. "I opened it," she said. It was a picture of us from last Christmas. You wrote on the back, "Family means showing up." Tears welled up in her eyes. "I didn't show up for you, sweetheart. I thought I was protecting something important, but I was just protecting my pride." Emily stared at her, unsure whether to believe it. Then Mom reached into her bag and pulled out a plate wrapped in foil. "Your favorite. Pecan pie. I made it for you." For a long moment, no one said anything. Then Emily took the plate. "Thanks," she said quietly. My mom smiled weakly and whispered, "Can I stay for a bit?" We all sat down at the table. The silence felt heavy but healing. My mom talked slowly, her voice cracking now and then. When I was your age, Emily, I disappointed my mother too. I swore I'd never be that kind of woman, but I became her. Emily's eyes softened, and I could see the anger leaving her. Later, Mom looked at me and said, "You shouldn't have come to dinner without her. You should have walked away." I nodded. "I know, I was scared," she sighed. "So was I. Sometimes we hide behind tradition because it's easier than admitting we're wrong." Emily finally smiled, just a little. "You're both so dramatic," she said. It broke the tension, and we all laughed through tears. It wasn't perfect, but it was something. After Mom left that afternoon, Emily curled up next to me on the couch. She said, "This was still a weird Christmas, but at least it's one we'll remember." I smiled and said, "Sometimes the worst days turn into the best lessons." That evening, we watched old home videos. Emily laughed at how silly I looked dancing in a Santa hat. I hadn't heard her laugh like that in weeks. She leaned her head on my shoulder and said, "I forgive you, Mom, but next time, if they don't want me there, neither of us goes." I nodded. Deal. For the first time in a long time, I felt peace. Not because everything was fixed, but because I knew I'd finally chosen right. That night, before bed, I texted my mom again. "Thank you for coming today." She replied, "You reminded me what Christmas is supposed to mean." The next morning, I woke up to the sound of Emily in the kitchen. She had made hot chocolate and was humming softly. She looked up at me and smiled. "I'm glad we stayed home this year." I hugged her again and said, "Me too, baby." Me too. But deep down, I knew the story wasn't quite over. There was still tension in the family. My brothers had texted me cold messages that night, accusing me of ruining dinner, calling me dramatic. One even said, "You always make everything about Emily." I didn't reply. For the first time, I didn't feel the need to explain myself. Because I had finally understood something important. Loyalty isn't proven by keeping peace with everyone. It's proven by standing with the one who needs you most, even if you stand alone. A week passed after Christmas, but the fallout lingered. The family group chat went silent except for an occasional message from my dad checking in. I didn't reply to most of them. I didn't have the energy to keep pretending everything was fine. Emily was quieter too, but not in the same broken way. More like she was processing it all, learning where everyone really stood. One evening, as we took down the decorations, she said, "Do you think Grandma really meant what she said?" I paused, untangling a string of lights. "I think she's trying, honey. People don't change overnight. But trying is a start." Emily nodded, her face thoughtful. "I want to believe that." A few days later, my mom called and asked if she could take us both to lunch. Emily hesitated, but I told her, "Let's give her a chance." We met at a small diner near her house. My mom looked nervous, like she'd rehearsed what she wanted to say. She ordered tea but didn't touch it. After a long silence, she said, "I spoke with your brothers. They don't agree with how I handled things. They think I'm giving in." I braced myself for another argument, but she surprised me. "Let them think what they want," she said. "I don't care anymore. I'm tired of pretending I'm proud when I should be humble." Emily looked up, startled. Mom continued, "I told them this family doesn't get to choose who counts. That if they can't accept that, maybe they shouldn't come next year." For a moment, I didn't know what to say. This was the same woman who once obsessed over appearances, who scolded me for airing private family issues. Now she was standing up for the granddaughter she had rejected. Emily blinked back tears, then whispered, "Thank you, Grandma." We spent hours there, talking about everything that had gone wrong, not to relive it, but to understand it. My mom admitted she'd been afraid of gossip, of people judging her for something she didn't understand. She said, "I thought being strict made me strong, but it only made me lonely." Emily reached across the table and held her hand. "It's okay. You can start over." After lunch, we walked outside. The air was cold and clean. My mom hugged Emily, really hugged her, the way she hadn't in months. It wasn't awkward anymore. It was quiet, but real. I saw something in both of them soften, like the first thaw after a long winter. That night, Emily sat with me on the couch again. We didn't talk much, just watched the fireplace flicker. She said suddenly, "You know, this Christmas was awful, but I think it fixed something that's been broken for a long time." I smiled. "Yeah, sometimes you need the cracks to let the light in," she laughed. That sounds like something Grandma would put on a fridge magnet, I chuckled. Probably. Then she grew serious. I'm not mad anymore, Mom. I just don't ever want to feel like I don't belong again. I promised her she never would. The next day, my dad came by alone. He brought a small wooden box. Inside was a folded note and an old photo of me at Emily's age, sitting under the same Christmas tree in their living room. The note said, "Family isn't perfect, but love should be constant." He said quietly, "Your mom wanted you to have that. She found it in her dresser." I realized then that maybe forgiveness wasn't a one-time thing. It was a slow rebuild, one act of honesty at a time. I looked at the photo and thought about how many holidays we'd spent trying to look happy instead of being honest. This year, the truth had finally broken through and it hurt, but it also healed. Over the next few weeks, things changed. My mom started inviting Emily to lunch on her own. They went shopping together, even baked cookies one weekend. My brothers stayed distant for a while, but slowly, one by one, they started coming around. My youngest brother texted Emily first. "Sorry, kiddo. Grandma made us think you didn't want to be there." She replied simply, "I always wanted to be there." When February came, we all met again. This time for my dad's birthday. It wasn't perfect, but it was peaceful. Emily sat beside my mom laughing at old stories. My mom reached over and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, smiling. That tiny moment meant more to me than any apology. Later that night, when we got home, Emily turned to me and said, "You know what I learned? You can't control how people treat you, but you can control whether you let it change you." I nodded. "That's the hardest part of growing up." She smiled softly. "You're still learning too." I laughed. "Always." As I watched her walk upstairs, I realized how much she had grown, not just older, but wiser, steadier. She had faced rejection and come out kinder, stronger. I was proud, but also humbled. Because the truth was, she had taught me more about love in that one Christmas than I had learned in my entire life. That night, I wrote in my journal, "Next Christmas, no invitations, no conditions, no pride. Just love." When Christmas came around again the following year, everything was different. The dinner was at my house. Emily decorated the tree herself with every ornament that held a memory, good and bad. My mom arrived early, helping set the table. My brothers came too, sheepish but present. When we all sat down, Emily stood up with a toast. "Last year I spent Christmas in an empty house," she said. "This year I'm surrounded by the people who finally remembered what that word family means." The room went still. Then everyone raised their glasses. Even my mom's eyes shimmered. We clinked glasses, and for once, no one faked a smile. Later that night, when everyone had gone home, Emily sat by the tree and said, "This feels right." I nodded. "It does." She looked at me and added, "I'm glad we went through it, though. It made us better." I hugged her close and whispered, "Merry Christmas, sweetheart." She smiled. "Merry Christmas, Mom." And this time there was no emptiness. Just warmth. Just family. Just love that finally found its way home.